Hey everyone, Evan Jones with you here for another episode of the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Another great episode lined up. We will visit with Dustin Kronhofman. He is the AD, head football coach, and head track coach at Arapahoe Public Schools. Of course, the RPAC Rundown Podcast is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors like Arapahoe Rehab and Fitness, Cambridge Supermarket, Webb's Oilfield Service, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Onyx Native, and C+. We'll take a break and then chat with Coach Kronhofman. Now joining us on the RPAC Rundown Podcast is Dustin Kronhofman, head coach of the Arapahoe Football Team, also track and field. He's the athletic director. Activities director is probably the more proper term. During these days and ages, it's kind of shifted from athletic director to activities director and handling a lot of different duties. But I saw on social media, Coach, Thanksgiving looked good. You had a prime rib, so it looks like you ate well. How was the holiday for you?
Yeah, ate very well. Had a couple Thanksgivings, a lot of pie, and we did have a big old prime rib with some of my fellow coaches for a Friendsgiving. So that was nice. Put on some weight, trying to lose it now, I guess. So still carrying weight from past Thanksgiving. So it's always a chore.
Cody Gerlach from the Valley Voice and I were joking. We thought probably you made the prime rib for yourself and made your friends eat something else. So
I should have. There was a salad there. I did not partake, but it was present.
Awesome. Well, you're a few weeks removed from the football season, Coach. I'm sure you're still plenty busy as the activities director. What's been keeping you occupied during this time as the winter sports season kind of gets rolling?
Even when football season was going on, we started junior high girls basketball and junior high wrestling. So beginning of November, we already had a junior high wrestling meet here, and we've had some junior high girls basketball games here already. And we're hosting a varsity wrestling triangular Thursday, and we got another junior high meet on Monday to wrap up junior high wrestling. So it's busy. Seems like it's nonstop. And then high school basketball starts again. So that's all winter, and high school wrestling all winter. So, and we got bowling coming up as well, and speech. So nonstop here during the winter months.
Yeah, busy time. No kidding. Yeah. So let's talk about your background too, Coach. That's kind of be the premise of our conversation throughout today. Let's talk about your background. Where did you attend high school, and also tell me about your career throughout college? It sounded like you were pretty busy during your college years.
Yeah. So attended high school at Alma, graduated 2002. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Decided late I was going to go into radiologic technology. Attended Southeastern Beatrice on a science scholarship. Went there a year, then transferred into the radiologic technology program at Southeast in Lincoln. Went through that for 2 years, about graduated in it. Had a little couple mishaps, not my mishaps, but just a couple little incidences in the hospital that just kind of threw me off. I overreacted probably to them. And then we just kind of bounced around through majors. Went into pharmacology, or pre-pharmacology for a semester, and then was going to go pre-med. So I was biology major and pre-med major for a little bit. And then I was kind of going to coaching clinics with my dad still. So went into secondary education in natural sciences, then switched over to secondary education in social sciences. Then just was a history major for a little bit, and then transferred over to UNK. And when I transferred, I was at UNL for 4 years. And when I transferred over to UNK, they weren't going to accept like half my classes. And so one day I just sat down with the dean before I started there. And for 2 hours, I just described my classes. I go, these classes are the same classes at UNK. I don't know why you're not accepting them. So hammered those out with the dean. They accepted all those, I think basically, but one or two. End up going a year classes at UNK and then student teaching for a semester. So a year and a half technically at UNK, and then ended up getting my master's in education administration at UNK. Graduated from there in 2020 with that.
Gotcha. Roundabout way, you end up as a coach and an administrator. Just took you a little time, huh?
Yeah, I think I actually have the state record in undergrad credits. I think I have around 320 something. So
Got to be
if
known for
somebody has,
something.
yeah, if somebody has more than that, I've yet to hear it. So 8.5 years of undergrad, I've yet to hear somebody have more than that.
Well, so with all that being said, how many years in total then have you been coaching and teaching then? What is it for you, coach?
I believe this is year 13
Mhm,
years coaching and 9 head coach. This is my
mhm,
9th year as head coach. Seventh year. This will be my 7th year as head coach in track, either as co-head coach or just the head coach
mm,
alone. And
mhm.
then 10th overall as track coach.
Gotcha, gotcha. So throughout that whole process and maybe even growing up, what was it for you that made you want to be a coach?
My dad was a coach. I've grown up around athletics and teaching my whole life. So I was just, ever since a young age, following my dad around, since I was in kindergarten, probably even younger than that, just, football student manager, basketball student manager, being at track practices, football practices, basketball practices, always, messing around, getting in trouble at practices, being where I'm not supposed to, and in between drills and stuff like that. So, always, at practice and stuff like that. And even when I was younger, watching film with my dad all the time. And so it was always part of my life. And just eventually came back to it in college.
Now, obviously, your dad is an influence for you as being a coach. Were there any others growing up that were some influences for you?
When I got to Arapahoe, um, you know, Bob Braithwaite and Darren Hatch are two guys that I really leaned on when I first became a coach. Um, they really helped me out a lot. I bounced a lot of things off of them. Almost weekly. I still ask those guys. I text them weekly still. Not necessarily about coaching, sometimes about teaching. But I can still go to those guys and ask them questions. Now I, have kind of a contingent of coaches uh, that we shoot questions, weekly back to each other, coaches all around the state.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a lot of guys talk to each other a lot, but Mr. Braithwaite and Mr. Hatch, kind of, I leaned on them a lot as well as my dad when I first started coaching.
Yeah, it's a couple of good ones to have for sure. But yeah, now not necessarily X's and O's, but what are some philosophies you use when coaching any sport that you've been involved with?
Well, I think the first thing, just like teaching, just building relationships in the classroom, in the hallways, getting kids to support your program, getting kids to buy into your program. Better relationship you have with those kids to support your program and to be in that program, the better program you're going to have, better buy-in you're going to have. So I think building relationships is probably the main thing you got to have, because when you're asking those kids to, do things in 100-degree heat, need to have that relationship where they can trust you. Another, kind of a core philosophy is, you want to kind of build competitiveness. You want to build competitiveness in your drills, in your practice planning, kind of in your weight training. Build that competitiveness because you want kids that want to compete in everything you do. You're not going to have, the super talented kids all the time, but, you're going to win a lot of games with kids that are going to compete to the final whistle or final buzzer of the games. And then you want kids that want to lead.
Mhm.
And you're not always going to have, natural leaders, but, you can develop leaders just by, you know, not necessarily, you're not going to develop leaders by, doing workbooks and going through leadership books, but you can develop leaders just by talking through instances and examples and practices when they're younger, and game situations as they're coming up through your program, and just building them that way. And eventually, by the time they're juniors, seniors, they're going to know what you want, and then they're going to become those leaders for you. And player led teams are going to be a lot more effective than coach led teams.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Now, I struggle asking coaches this question because I put you in a tough spot because you never want to leave anyone out. But what are some of the top athletes you coach? Maybe not even just straight up athleticism, performance, or whatever it might be. They worked hard, whatever. Who are some of those athletes that were top tier athletes, and some that just kind of stand out in your mind throughout your coaching career?
I'll start with the girl athletes, track wise. Alexa Whipple, her senior year, junior senior reel, she really went off in track in the sprints, scored a ton of points her senior year. Rochelle Wendland, great high jumper, sprinter as well. Kaylee Watson, great hurdler. Um, Boy athletes, probably one of the best ones I've seen, Gentry Anderson. I think he could have went Division I if he didn't tear his ACL his junior year. Some other ones, Caden Waverka, Gage Schutz, Isaac Watson, Cooper Schutz could have been a heck of an athlete if he didn't. He was having a heck of a career if he didn't tear his knee up. Levi Kerner, a guy his size, being able to move, state champion wrestler. He was unblockable his senior year. And then guys this year, Will Casey, Trenton Roskop, incredible athletes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know I'm leaving some guys out.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's difficult. I think every time we ask a coach that, they text me afterwards like, oh, I forgot this kid and this kid, of course, too. But no, for you as a coach, though, I'm sure you're always in a situation where like, yes, we're doing things right, but how can I work on my craft? So, what are some things you do, coach, to kind of improve each year, each season? What are some things you work on?
Trying to get to clinics, football clinics, track clinics. Try to get to the multi-sport clinic every summer. That's the Nebraska clinic's, one of the best in the country. Get to the 8-man clinic and try to get to at least one other clinic. Used to be a good one out in Ogallala. They stopped doing that one. Went to a Glacier clinic in Kansas City a couple years ago. And then Sideline Power has one in Ashland. Didn't get to make it to that one last year. It got snowed out when I was supposed to go to it, and then they had to reschedule it, and ended up being on a track meet day, so didn't get to go to that one. Planning on going to that, and then just have a pretty good network of coaches that we bounce things off. We'll Zoom, we'll send each other pictures. How would you defend this? What do you think of this play? We constantly do that during the week at night. Sometimes it's a ridiculous time, and we just do that a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know I wanted to ask you, you seem like you're pretty involved in the Nebraska Eight-Man Football Coaches Association. Tell us your role within that organization and what do they all do?
Yep, I'm the secretary of the Nebraska Eight-Man Coaches Association. We're just trying to promote 8-man football, not just in Nebraska, but just the sport altogether. Some of the things that we're trying to do, we're trying to get an all-star game going with another state right now. It's been very difficult. We used to have one with Kansas, used to have one with Oklahoma. Haven't had one in several years now. Working on it. We're going to see where that goes. Secretary, right now we're sending out a form for nominations for our 8-man all-star game. That's in Hastings on June 21st. Once we get those back, we'll have a meeting where the coaches will decide who they're going to pick, voting meeting. And when we get those, I have to do all the paperwork. I'll send out forms for all the players selected. They'll have to send their signed forms back to me, and then I'll have to send back about 6 different forms to them. And then that's when it gets really busy. I have to constantly be on them to get their forms, their sponsorship money, and I have to stay up on them because it's like kids turning in homework.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing with those all-star games. A lot of people, there's some people that think you just go and you play, but there is some things the kids have to do to play in the all-star game, whether it's selling tickets, sponsorship, and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool.
You got to have your insurance coverage. You got to have a physical in. You have to have plenty of forms signed. You have to have sponsorships, and There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to go into it. And, most of these are fundraisers. Ours is Sertoma fundraiser. So most of this money goes to, the Sertoma and their foundation, that goes to get glasses, eyeglasses for a lot of kids. So,
yeah, that's cool. Now it's December, and I saw on social media also the other day, it's Sweatermas. Tell us a little bit about that for you, Coach.
I don't even know how it started. One year I bought this ugly sweater, and it was a disgusting purchase off eBay when I was in college. It had this huge turtleneck up to my chin and had a big bow with a big bell on it. I still have it. I think it's still in my room.
So is it hanging in your office, Coach? That would be wonderful.
It is, because I had a kid borrow it the other day. So it's this.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's
so
wonderful.
I think I got that in college sometime, and then I just started buying them. It's probably ridiculous amount of money in sweaters that I have. So I probably should have started wearing them before Thanksgiving just to get through all of them. But yeah, I have a ridiculous amount of sweaters. They're a lot more tighter on me the last couple years than when I first started wearing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty awesome that you have that many sweaters that you can cycle through during the winter season. That's pretty cool. Yeah. But well, Coach, hey, thanks for the time. We'll be seeing you soon. Okay.
Appreciate the coverage.
That will do it for this week's episode of the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Of course, the RPAC Rundown Podcast brought to you by a number of great sponsors like JBK Operating LLC, Scouts Recreation, First Central Bank, Cross Diamond Cattle Company, and Prairie Girl Candle Company. So tentatively next week, we're planning on discussing our RPAC fall season honors in the podcast. So we will go through the RPAC Rundown all conference football and volleyball teams. Also, we had some featured matchups this week. So in that podcast next week, of course, we'll talk about the matchups that we covered throughout the first week of winter sports season. The magazine is out, so go grab a copy, of course. Hey, thanks for tuning in this week. We'll chat next week. See ya.